we mentioned Newcastle, so I wanted to bring them up really because
Mhm.
outrage has been sparked today. And I saw my TL, I saw people, there was a quote tweet I see going crazy from a journalist called Mark Kelman, who says Newcastle United are in advanced, I'll make sure I read this correctly, are in advanced talks in a multi-million-pound shirt sponsorship with a company called, and I want to make sure I get their name correct when I say this.
Let me
It's
put it up. I can
Seller.
help you with the name.
Yeah. Actually, I can put it up on the. I'll say what I'm going to put up. Seller Sports, a Saudi-based events company, an alliance that would provide a litmus test for the new Premier League rules. Now, him stating that it's a litmus test for the new Premier League rules turns out, by the way, one of the board members of Newcastle is also on the board of this company. And the reason it sparked outrage, and I'll show the picture, is because this company's offering £30 million per year, I believe, but they currently don't have a website. So people are a little bit miffed of a company that can afford I think it's a 5-year deal, so a £150 million deal, but currently they don't have a website. No one really knows who they are. Their name isn't known. They're sharing board members. What is your take? We know that City are currently being investigated for very similar activities. Some people think this is jealousy from Premier League rivals. Others feel that it is absolutely right to challenge because there's a belief that they're not real companies. They're just being propped up by the Saudi owners of Man City as a way of generating bigger incomes to circumvent FFP. What's your personal take on this, mate?
If this goes through, then FFP means absolutely nothing. Then we've all been bamboozled. This is just BS, this whole FFP thing. We should all go out there, spend 600 million, break every single rule because it's just full BS. You know, they're just basically, essentially, they're doing the City. And I don't know why City fans, maybe a few City fans in the comment section piping up. You're the originator of this shit. So you're the one that need, there is no website. They went to one of the City sponsors. They found a mailbox. Last I knew, mailboxes don't print money. So, it's just people aren't even aware of how things work in the region. And they still want to talk about stuff and act like they think like it really is a company sponsoring them. In the Gulf, there is no such thing as private companies. Everything's owned by the government. Everything goes back to the government itself. So when it comes,
and where are you? Just remind everybody where you're from and your understanding of this, please.
I'm Jordanian.
Okay.
So everything is owned by the government. So the private sector isn't really private sector because it's more owned by the government than everything else. And when it comes to this whole thing, imagine the football terrace, right, is Newcastle United. We can make this easy to give as an example. Imagine the Top 6 show sponsors the football terrace. Imagine Straight Facts sponsors the football terrace. Imagine the Done Deal show sponsors the football terrace. This is exactly what is happening right here, right now. It all goes back to Terry anyway. So what are we doing here? Like the same guy is getting sponsored by himself. So all they had to do is, they can just wake up tomorrow. By the way, they've now increased their sponsorship to 60 million a year, 70 million a year, 80 million a year. All hell break loose then. And here's the thing. You want to punish City, you have to also stop the teams that are trying to do it now. I'm not against Newcastle spending money. I'm not. Good luck to them, all of that good stuff. More competition in the Prem is better for the Premier League, all of that, beautiful. But also, I want clubs to do it the right way. This is why there is absolutely zero respect for Manchester City right now. No one gives a fuck. The reason why no one gives a fuck, it's not organic. It's not real growth. It's just fake. Everything about that club is fake. Even their celebration is from Lech Poznan. And people come here and say, oh, Newcastle, oh, you're jealous. I'm not jealous. I just want it to be done the right way. So let's have real sponsors, give you real money. You've just made the Champions League, so that means extra money. Start signing players smartly, invest, develop, and then get to that stage. But don't come tell me that you're already getting sponsors at this moment in time just because you made top 4 once, and now you're starting to make money and all this wild stuff. Bro, this is the Man City stuff. Now all eyes are on the Premier League. All eyes are on them because you want to charge Manchester City. You want to charge them. So if another club is trying to do the same exact thing that Man City are trying to do, then you have to stop Newcastle from doing that same exact thing. Because if that's the case, let's take this to the umpteenth degree. Qatar by Man United, sponsor Qatar Airways, visit Qatar, Doha, etc., etc., etc. Now what? Now, Man United could spend $1 billion every summer and no one would care. They could buy a whole 23-man squad and no one could say anything. So if you want to stop this, you have to stop this now, because FFP means nothing. It means absolutely nothing if stuff like this starts going through, because all they're showing is, listen, we have the blueprint from City and we're just going to do it back. And if they do it back and they do allow it back, then this whole thing is pointless. FFP is pointless. Spend money, fair competition, blah, 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 blah. So all that just means absolutely nothing. So now let's all just break FFP rules, spend as much as we want, and to hell with FFP, if that's the case. I'm just going to be completely honest with you.
I get where you're coming from. Look, I did a bit of research because I wanted to be fair. So, Sela, I think it's pronounced. So how would you pronounce the word? S-E-L-A?
Sela, you pronounced it
Sela.
correct.
You said
Sela,
so
yeah.
right. Sela. Look, they do have, according to LinkedIn, 1,133 employees, and they have existed since 1995. So that information is out there on LinkedIn to be seen. So they're a company that is getting towards 30 years old. They employ over 1,100 people. It does appear they're a genuine company. I think where people are going to have a problem is going to be in the space of, well, one of their board members is also a board member at Newcastle. And what I would say is this: if clubs really have a worry and a concern about breaking the rules, then football's got to become regulated. So when I worked in banking, if you wanted to bank with me in the private bank, you had to go through due diligence, and some people from some regions of the world had to go through advanced due diligence. So and sometimes it was weird stuff. So you would say to someone, "How did you make your money?" And it would be, "Well, it was inherited by my father." What did your father do? Where did the money? We'd ask for documentation. Where did the money come from? Or he got it from the sale of this business. Can we see documentation on that? Because at any point, the regulators of banks could ask to see that information. Some clients went, "We're not giving you that. It's private information." We'd say, "Fine, then we're not opening the bank accounts." And maybe that's where football's got to go, is the case of, well, if this company's going to offer you, whatever a company's going to offer you in sponsorship, they've got to be able to prove to you that they have the income through clients over a period of 3 or 4 years prior to sponsoring you to cover this, as an example. That's the only way you're going to ever defend this, because if you can't ever delve into the bank accounts and the trading accounts of all these companies abroad, you're never going to know their true turnover, what they do, how much money they earn, or anything along those lines. I will say this: there is a lot of jealousy towards Newcastle getting money, the same as when Man United, if Man United get the Qataris, there'll be jealousy towards them. The reason I'm not going to come out and condemn this is, firstly, this seems like a much more legitimate business than a lot of the ones that City have been accused of. Some of them don't.
City mailbox.
Yeah, some of City don't even have LinkedIn pages or websites. They don't even have addresses. They don't have any employees. So I really, that's almost, how can you give £10 million a year from a company that doesn't even have any turnover? That's weird to me, right? This seems a little bit different, and I'm going to defend Newcastle here. 1,100 employees, a 30-year-old business. Maybe, this is what they're able to do. And there are going to be companies, loads of companies when I was in Qatar that I'd never heard of. They have there's a thing out there where you can get anything delivered. So it's almost, we don't really have this in England too well. It's like Just Eat for food. But if you need a toilet brush, or if you need a paintbrush, a toothbrush, or a comb, you go on there and do it. Now, this company is everywhere, and it's worth billions. It's this thing that everybody all day, every day in Qatar uses it. Now, if they were to sponsor Man United, no one in England would know who they are. But because I've been to Qatar, I've seen them. I actually can't remember what they're called. I might even not have their app on my phone anymore, but I want to remember now. Now that I'm out here saying it, like, I want to remember what they're called.
But what if they're the same board member? That's the problem. You already said the problem. By definition, you can't sponsor yourself. That's the issue, Terry. How are you sponsoring yourself? Because then you can put as many numbers as you want. What's stopping them from the next contract being double what they just gave now?
I understand.
That's the problem.
And I think that's a fair challenge. And that's why I think the journalist has written down what it is that he said. And I'm trying to find the name of this damn. Oh, it's called I can never pronounce it. Snunu. SNOONU. Snunu. Yeah, that's what it's called. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, and that's where there needs to be an element here of, well, how long have you been on the board? Are you a key decision maker at that organization? Have you pushed this through? Can they afford it? That's how you protect. At the same time, it's a real interesting one to see how this is going to kind of pan out and the direction it's going to go in. I do also think a lot of outrage comes from jealousy, and I will say this as well: no one seems to have that kind of outrage when clubs get sponsored by American sponsors or British sponsors, European sponsors. Like, we never even bother to look into the connections, and I can guarantee you, a lot of Man United sponsors, I bet if you start delving into it, the Glazers are, family friends with the owners of those sponsors, or or sit on
That
board
should be
with
stopped too,
executive
then.
members. But no, and that's what I mean. For me, if you're going to investigate this, I think you've got to start looking at all of it and go, okay, well, Arsenal have just got a new sponsor. It's an American tech company. Let's check for any connections between KSE's businesses and their businesses. And like, I don't see anyone investigating that. And I feel like we only really spend time in our media investigating Russian and Middle East money, especially Middle East money. Like, that seems to get a lot more attention. And I'm personally a little uncomfortable with that, if that makes sense. But
I agree with you. My biggest problem, which you as well agreed with, is it's just the same guy. The same guy on the board of said company. That's the issue for me. So if the Cronkies, if Stan Kroenke is the is a board member of, I don't know, whatever, like Nestle, and Nestle want to sponsor Arsenal, then that's wrong. Regardless, whether it's Nestle, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, anything, like, the idea is wrong. That's the thing. So
yeah, well,
the
I mean,
idea of you
Newcastle was sponsored,
sponsoring yourself is the issue.
but Newcastle was sponsored by Sports Direct. And
That's
Mike
also
Ashley,
wrong,
Mike, yeah, and I think, yeah. So I don't know if that's a complete. That's what I mean. I don't think it's against the rules to be sponsored by yourself. I think what's against the rules is you this, like, what would be against the rules? Say they're getting 30 million here. What's against the rules would be for the principal owner of Newcastle to pump the money into Salah, and then for that money then to be given to City as sponsorship money. That's essentially what City have done wrong. I think your own companies can sponsor you. You just can't filter in your own personal money to be sent off. That is where the problem lies.
It's 30 million, right?
Yes, that's what I read online. Yeah.
30, right? So if it was 60 million, would you have the same reaction?
Yeah, for me, it's like, I get why they're challenging it, but it doesn't look like a legitimate business, and there's no proof yet that this company doesn't have the turnover to accommodate it. Does that make sense?
So when it becomes 90 million after that, then what?
Well, maybe we've got to look at it, but maybe through being sponsored by a Premier League team that's in the Champions League, they start to get more and more events. They start to grow as a business. That's why you would sponsor, right? Sponsor Premier League teams to grow their business. That's literally the point of it. So I think you've got to look at it. But if this company seller had 3 employees and were founded a year ago, and they could afford to sponsor, and I know that, look, there might be a billionaire that's backing the company, so he's pumping money into it. If they were a new company with no employees sponsoring a Premier League club £30 million a year, I'd be suspicious of that. But they are a 30-year-old business, But you said something earlier I wanted to pull on. You said earlier that Man City are fake. What do you mean by that?
What do you mean? What do I mean? It's crystal clear. Man City is not a real club. No one respects this shit. Why have we spent the last 2 weeks talking about Arsenal? Who's sat here talking about City? That's the thing. Like, this is why it just all feels manufactured. Because this could have been Portsmouth. This could have been any other club that got money. It's the truth. They won the lottery, and whether people like to admit it or not, it is the absolute truth. Just go look at, all you have to see is just go look at City pre-money, post-money. It's nothing but facts. And the way that they have built it and all of that. Like, we're talking about a team that 20 years ago was in, like, League One. Like, we're talking about a team that was like, so you could literally, like, go and pull up Coventry, Sunderland, one of them guys, and it's the same stuff. So now, actually, Sunderland's bigger, okay. So you can't, like, just be that small of a club and people care about you. I think, here's the thing, though. I think you will see in the upcoming years, though, more and more hatred towards Manchester City as they get successful. And I think when that hate develops, people will start going like, man, we should have hated on this earlier. So you look at this like, people, if there's a Chelsea City league title race next season, I'd want Chelsea to win. I don't want anyone to beat City next season, not called Manchester United, because they're my biggest rivals. So you'd understand that. But other than that, I'd want everyone to beat City because they're just winning too much. And at the rate that they're winning, if they continue into this rate, within the next 10 years, they're equalizing our league titles, your league titles. If they win a couple of Champions Leagues, 3 Champions Leagues, 4 Champions Leagues, then the conversations start to get, a little bit crazy. So for me, I just don't take, I hate City because City, is not organically made. It's all sketchy. But I think hatred towards them is more at the capacity and the rate at which they're winning stuff. And then they deserve, and listen, there's a reason why last season the conversation was on Liverpool, the season before that it was on this team, on that team. This season everyone's talking about Arsenal. No one sat here, talking about City like that. And by the way, like, how I know it's inorganic is I know personally about 10 City fans who all used to support different clubs before that. Former Arsenal City fan, former Chelsea City fan.
Where you're from or online?
No, online.
Who?
And they openly
name names. Name names.
No,
Name
not
names.
Sam. No, not
What,
gonna
you mean
do
like
that. But they
Hamza?
openly admit it.
You mean
I'm
Hamza?
former Arsenal. They say it.
Hamza.
No, Hamza is not former Arsenal.
Hamza.
It's people you don't know. It's people you don't know.
I do. The only thing I find suspicious is not about Man City, the club. Anyone I see that's like from the UK or that's like not from Manchester and is like 35 plus, and they go, "Yeah, I picked City when I was a kid." I'm like, "You're a liar. You're a liar. You're a liar. You're just a liar. That didn't happen at all."